بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الأمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Saad ibn Abi Waqqas, may Allah be pleased with him, went once to Umar ibn al-Khattab. He complained to Umar ibn al-Khattab by telling him, has anything happened in Islam? And he repeated that twice or three times. Has anything happened in Islam? So Umar said, no, not that I know of. Why are you asking? He said, I met your brother, Uthman ibn Affan, and he came in the opposite direction. I said, Assalamu alaikum. I greeted him. He stared at me and stared at me well and did not reply. And he walked by me. Of course, Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, as the Caliph of the Muslims and one of the 10 that the Prophet ﷺ gave the glad tidings to, that they are in paradise, wanted to resolve the problem. So he called Uthman to come to his majlis, to his gathering. And Uthman walked in. So immediately Umar asked him, Uthman, why didn't you reply the salam of your brother Saad? He says that he met you on the road, you stared at him, and he gave you salam, you didn't answer him back. So Uthman said, he did not. Saad was outraged. He said, I did. Uthman said, you did not. Saad said, I did. And then, all of a sudden, Uthman remembered. He said, yes, I seek Allah's forgiveness. May Allah forgive me. You're right. But when I met you, I was so engaged mentally, trying to remember the first dua that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, and I cannot remember it. For one reason or the other, I just can't click it. Saad ibn Abi Waqqas, may Allah be pleased with him, told Uthman, I'll tell you this dua. Once we were with the Prophet ﷺ in the masjid, and he was telling us that the first supplication, the first dua, was of the Noon, and he is Jonah, Prophet Jonah. And before the Prophet ﷺ completed his statement, a nomad came. A man, a Bedouin came, and he asked something from the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet was engaged in answering him back, and he forgot. So after he finished, he walked out, going out of the masjid, of the mosque. When I followed him, Saad says, I followed the Prophet ﷺ. And when I was afraid that he's going to enter his house, which was adjacent to the mosque, I struck the floor with my foot to bring his attention. And the Prophet looked behind him and said, who's this? Is this Abu Ishaq? And this is the nickname of Saad. So Saad said, yes, O Prophet of Allah. He told him, what do you want? He said, O Prophet of Allah, you were talking to us, you were teaching us the first supplication of Prophet Jonah before this Bedouin came and asked you, and you did not complete or continue your teachings to us. So I just wanted to remind you. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yes, the Noon, or Jonah, supplication, when he was in the belly or the stomach of the whale, was La ilaha illa anta subhanak inni kuntu min al-zalimin. There is no God worthy of being worshipped except you. Glorify you, O Allah. I admit that I was wrong to myself. The Prophet tells us, alayhi salam, no Muslim prays and supplicates with this supplication. Allah Azza wa Jal, whenever he does this, he will answer his prayer. La ilaha illa ant subhanak inni كنت من الظالمين. Now, if we analyze this short and beautiful story, we will find that there are lots and lots of benefits we can get out of it. First of all, this story has 3 heroes. And all of these 3 heroes were given the glad tidings from the Prophet ﷺ that they are in paradise. They are the 10 companions of the Prophet ﷺ in paradise. And if you ask a lot of the Muslims nowadays to name them, they would fail. But if you ask a lot of the Muslims nowadays about the latest top 10 songs on the chart, they'll tell you. If you ask them about the most box office winner movie, they'll tell you. If you ask them about the names of the football players in the Brazilian team, they'll name them. But when it comes to the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, who cares? If it comes to the battles of the Prophet ﷺ, the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, Muslims are ignorant. They neglect to learn their history. And that is why Muslims don't have a future and they don't have a present. Because they have turned their back to their past and history. The Prophet ﷺ said, Abu Bakr is in heaven, in paradise. Umar in paradise. Uthman in paradise. Ali in paradise. Abu Ubaidah, Amir ibn al-Jarrah is in paradise. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf is in paradise. Saad ibn Abi Waqqas, one of them, is in paradise. Talha ibn Ubaidillah is in paradise. Az-Zubayr ibn al-Awwam is in paradise. And Sa'id ibn Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl is in paradise. And he's the narrator of this hadith. Sa'id ibn Zayd, the brother-in-law of Umar ibn Khattab. If you go into their life story, you will find events that will blow your mind away. They are the best humans ever walked on earth after the prophets and messengers of Allah, the Almighty. May Allah be pleased with them. May Allah make us join them in paradise. Uthman ibn Affan, he is the 3rd caliph. And he was the son-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ, as he married 2 of his daughters. When the first one died, he married the second one. And when she died, the Prophet said, by Allah, if I had the 3rd daughter, I would give it to Uthman in marriage. So he had 2 of the Prophet's daughters, while Ali had 1. And whoever talks bad about Uthman, he is talking bad about the Prophet ﷺ, who trusted him, and who loved him, and who gave him 2 of his daughters in marriage. Umar ibn Khattab is the 2nd caliph, and we know that he was the father-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ, in the sense that his daughter Hafsa was the Prophet's wife. Abu Bakr also was the same status. He was the 1st caliph, and his daughter Aisha was the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. Saad ibn Abi Waqqas, may Allah be pleased with him, was also known as Saad ibn Malik. So if you read the name, don't be confused. Saad ibn Abi Waqqas or Saad ibn Malik is the same person. This man was among the very first to accept Islam. And he talks about himself that I was the 3rd of Islam. There were only 3 people as Muslims in one narrations. He suffered a lot. He migrated with the Prophet ﷺ, and he became one of the rich companions of the Prophet ﷺ. He was known to be answered by Allah Azza wa Jal whenever he raised his hand in supplication. So that's why the companions were afraid whenever he said, I will pray to Allah. They would say, okay, that's enough. Because